Good evening, everyone. Happy weekend, happy Saturday, and welcome to episode 13 of the Winged Eagle podcast. Hope everybody's having an excellent day. I think this episode is just going to be fun. It's just going to be fun, chill, casual, and laid back. My notes are pretty entertaining. We're pretty much going to talk about this week of shows in professional wrestling across WWE, NXT, and AEW. We're going to preview War Games, preview Survivor Series, talk about storyline ideas, shit on the product a little bit, praise the product a little bit, discuss a lot of wrestling news, including CM Punk, Jordan Myles, all sorts of good stuff. So it's going to be a fun afternoon. I am on a 90-minute time schedule. I got to get the hell out of here 90 minutes from now and head off to work because I do work in the evenings. But I think based on my notes, we can cram it all in. First things first, like every week, let me make sure I don't sound like an idiot. All right, we're looking good. And same goes. Barry, what's up, man? Check out Barry's YouTube channel there. He just popped up in the chat with a super chat. I will be going through and answering all of the super chats in between topics and segments here on the today. So if you have something to say or something to ask, I will get to it. It just won't be right away. And yes, Barry, WWE 2K's Facebook page hack is on my list of notes. We will get that. And I think we're probably going to open with a lot of that news. That's my plan and my format for this week. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the news. We'll talk about that 2K hack. We'll talk about CM Punk. We'll talk about Jordan Myles. Got a little bit of some news and notes on Brian Kendrick. Mustafa Ali got his name back. And a few other things we'll discuss. And then we'll briefly discuss Raw. I'm only going to talk about a couple of points on Raw because that was not a good show. It was taped. I didn't even live react to Raw this week. I sat this one out. We'll discuss Dynamite and NXT, and I think both shows this week were excellent. And since this Wednesday Night War started, this is the first week I've picked NXT as the better show. I preferred NXT. I'm not saying it was the better show. I'm saying for me, I enjoyed NXT more, and this is the first time I've said that since these Wednesday Night Wars have started. So we'll talk about AEW and NXT extensively. We'll talk about last night's SmackDown as well, which started out like crap and then turned out to be a decent show. But again, not a ton to talk about there. And a lot of these angles and storylines heading into Survivor Series and War Games with all these teams, and they're all crisscrossing triple brands. I think it's overwhelming WWE, and it's starting to get a little bit convoluted and kind of a mess. And there was a couple things that took place on SmackDown last night that I thought were ridiculous and made zero sense whatsoever. So we'll talk about a lot of that as we go through here. First things first, though, I do want to do my weekly tradition and shout out my patrons and my supporters on Patreon. And right after that, I've got a special announcement for a live stream tomorrow night, 24 hours from now. We're going to do a really fun Survivor Series related live stream, so stay tuned for that. And I've got a special birthday wish I want to shout out here in a second as well. But first things first, and again, I want to apologize for this white light in my face. I just want to shout out all of my current patrons. I appreciate all of your support. Barry MK, who I just mentioned a minute ago, Blake Moran, Claudio Clavedetster, Damian Elwell Sr., Daniel Rodriguez, Jordan Karg, John Riffle, John Redifer, Keith Hammonds, welcome back, my friend, Josiah Blevins, Keith Salyers, Michael Cuomo, Christian Collins, Mr. Steve, Nathan Walker, Steve Myers, and the Double Z TV. You guys are awesome, and I appreciate your support. Also, a very special fan and listener of the channel, Martin Tomlinson. 25th birthday today. Shout out to you, my man, who mentioned to me that today was your birthday on Twitter. So I hope you have an excellent one, and I hope you're able to hang out with us and talk some wrestling today. And as far as that Survivor Series stream that I was talking about, this is going to be tomorrow. I haven't even nailed down an exact time, but I think I'm going to do prime time. So it's going to be 8 p.m. on the East Coast. It's going to be 5 p.m. for me Pacific. I will post the link to that tonight. But what it's going to be is a live stream just like this, but we're going to review the first two Survivor Series pay-per-views in 1987 and 1988. Now, I understand tomorrow's live stream is probably not going to get a ton of views. I'd be willing to bet that 90% of you in the chat right now were not alive when these wrestling shows took place and maybe have zero memories of them or even don't care. But I was alive. I was a kid. I was 10, 11, 12, 13 years old during those late 80s and early 90s years. And I have a lot of memories of both of those pay-per-views and a lot of really interesting personal stories that I thought might just be fun to talk about because both of those nights are just imprinted on my memory until the end of time. Very memorable personal Thanksgiving nights for me in 1987 and 1988. And I want to share my memories of those shows. So we'll talk about the old days. We'll talk about Hogan and Andre and Savage and Honky Tonk and Demolition and the Powers of Pain and the Heart Foundation and Strike Force and so many great tag teams and wrestlers from that time period, and I really miss it. And I thought it would make a fun, just kind of random, Survivor Series related video to do, because I like, to do pay-per-view themed videos during the months that we're in. So if you haven't checked out my Survivor Series 2001 review, you can catch that on my channel as well. And then I'll be up here tomorrow to talk about 87 and 88. And I've got some fun stuff planned for December. I got a This Day in History planned for Bret Hart and the British Bulldog from In Your House 1995. I also have a This Day in History planned for when Triple H won the European title from Shawn Michaels on Raw in 1997, which is another really fun random day of kooky shit that went down. So some fun stuff planned for December, some holiday themed stuff as well. So, and then right after that, we're into January, and it's Royal Rumble time, and I'm heading off to the Chris Jericho cruise, which will be a ton of great footage, and will make for an excellent video down the line. And then right after that, bam, you get smacked right in the face with WrestleMania season again. Time flies, y'all. Time flies. Anyway, let me answer this super chat real quick from Chris before we get into the news. Chris, I appreciate the $20 donation, my friend. You are the man. Let me read your question here real quick. Do you think the MJF Jericho segment where they both said Cody Rhodes at the same time was a playoff KO and Jericho in 2016 when they both said Roman at the same time when saying who was to blame for their Survivor Series loss? Chris, that basically word for word what you just said there is in my notes later on when we talk about Dynamite. That segment, I mean, I am actually surprised. I mean, that to me, that gives NXT even more credit for giving me somehow, in my mind, what was the better show when you had a segment like that on AEW, which was easily the best thing we've seen in wrestling this month and possibly the year. Really fun promo, but yes, very reminiscent of that. As soon as I saw Jericho doing that, I was immediately reminded. I just couldn't remember who he did it with, and I had to do some research on it myself last night, and then I saw the segment with KO, and I'm like, I knew that happened. And I actually thought that he might have even done it a third time, maybe like way back. And he's done similar things. Remember back in WCW when he built up the Canadian audience and started talking, so great about them. And then he says, thank God I moved to America because Canada sucks. And then just hits him with a right hand, a knockout blow. I love that about Jericho. And that promo was exceptional. I mean, amazing. And I can't wait to talk about that later on when we get into Dynamite. But thank you, Chris, for the super chat. Any other donations that come through, I will be getting to those, like I said, as we go through here. What's our audience looking like now? All right, just about 100 people in here. That will build up. Last week, the Winged Eagle did not perform well because I came up, like an hour before the Full Gear pay-per-view. So with that being said, my plan for next week is actually not to do a Winged Eagle. So next Saturday, I don't think I'm going to do one because that's TakeOver. And the jury is still out as to whether or not I'm going to be home for that as of right now. I've got to work for TakeOver, but I might be able to swing something and be home for War Games. So either way, whether I'm here or not for War Games, my plan is to come up on Friday instead. And instead of a Winged Eagle, I'm just going to do predictions. Now, what sucks about that and WWE's new TV schedule is that I'm going to have to do my Survivor Series predictions before SmackDown. Things could take place on SmackDown that might change my mind, but probably not, because these matches, this is all about brand supremacy, and I don't think anything too nuts is going to happen on the Go Home SmackDown. So this coming Friday, it's just going to be a War Games and Survivor Series predictions video. On the weekend, on Saturday, I'm not even going to bother with a Winged Eagle because what's the point? And then if I'm home to watch War Games, immediately after the pay-per-view, I'll be up to review it. And then the next night, I will be home to watch Survivor Series, and I will be up right after Survivor Series with a review there. So next week's schedule will be a little bit off, and I think myself and a lot of other YouTubers are still kind of trying to figure it out because SmackDown airing live on Friday really causes some problems for people who want to do prediction videos and shit like that. It doesn't give you much time to really get it out if you want to watch all of the shows. And if you notice too, I think next Friday's SmackDown is in Chicago. So when they have the big pay-per-view weekends, they would usually do the pay-per-view followed by Raw, followed by SmackDown the next night. Well, now that SmackDown's all the way on Friday, it's like being reversed. So now the go-home show is also in the same arena, then the pay-per-views, and then Raw the next night. I think that's the way it's going down. So it's screwed everything up. I'm not really a fan. I actually wish that SmackDown's was still on Tuesday because it made it much easier, for podcast stuff. Know what I'm saying? GoodMicWork equals AEW. All right. Thank you very much for that, Nick Webb. I missed that one earlier as well. I appreciate the donation, my friend. Anyway, let's start getting into the wrestling news first. Then we'll talk about this week's TV shows. Of course, the big news of the week on Tuesday, CM Punk returned, sort of, to WWE-related programming, showing up on WWE's Backstage show on FS1. I did a whole separate 12-minute video on that as soon as it happened. I came home from work, I watched it, I processed it, I took it all in, tried to come up and do a review on it, or a few thoughts on it, but I think I was so overwhelmed by the Twitter nonsense of this because I've never seen anything like it. It was like, I said, it's like the new Britt Baker is a real dentist, because I've never seen so many people say at one time, all trying to be informative, and yet they're all saying the same thing, that CM Punk is only working for Fox and he's not working for WWE, and nothing. This doesn't mean anything. And I'm like, I just was blown away. I'm like, to even think that is mind-bogglingly ignorant. You know, this is a bridge builder. You know, yes, he might not be working for WWE directly, but he's on a WWE show with WWE employees and WWE talent talking about the WWE product. To say that he has nothing to do with them is foolish and dumb. And he may not be signed to WWE at this moment. Of course he's not. He's signed to Fox, but this builds the bridge. This builds the bridge that CM Punk shot a bazooka at when he crossed it 5 years ago. You know, it's now being rebuilt, and this is the first step. It's the same thing. You know, when they, I'm trying to think of what it reminds me of, but you know, like the video games, they brought in Sting, they brought in Goldberg. That was like the first step into getting them back in the company. You know, they sign them to a video game deal, they're under contract to them, and there's a whole bunch of shit that's separate from WWE, but what that does is that creates that olive branch there to where the two sides can eventually come together. So this is kind of step one in my mind. If CM Punk is ever going to return to the ring, you know where it's going to be now. It's going to be in WWE. Whether or not he sits out a couple of years before he finally decides to do this, or if he fast tracks something in a few days in his own hometown, or possibly something for WrestleMania, because as you look down at WrestleMania 36 right now, what kind of matches could you really put together that would be huge marquee attractions? You could put a great card together with the talent you have, but you need, WWE always likes to have those matches, you know, bring back the old guys, you know, the Taker match, you know, or having CM Punk come back, you know, Brock Lesnar and a lot of other guys, they try to bring back for big WrestleMania moments. And I think if they're feeling like they don't have the star power or the attraction matches that they normally want for WWE, or for WrestleMania, that's when money might start talking. And WWE might say, you know, we got all this money in our bank right now from Fox and USA and Saudi Arabia. Let's just give a big ass chunk of it to CM Punk and make this a extremely memorable WrestleMania. So you don't know. My whole bottom line and my point of the video the other night was just to say that nobody really knows what he's going to do. And to confidently insist that you do know just speaks of your foolishness and insecurity, because it's not true. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And CM Punk may very well never wrestle again. But if I'm forced to put money on it, I'm betting that he will. And this is the first step. Did you guys see the little YouTube behind the scenes video as well of CM Punk getting into the building? They put the scarf around his head and they were trying to keep him quiet and keep him hidden. And then he came out and they were interviewing him, and he was very it's kind of emotional and weird, and it's nervous to be back in this environment. I haven't been in this environment in over 5 years. Very cool little 3-minute piece. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. It really gives you an idea of what CM Punk's demeanor and his attitude towards the company is. And you can tell that I feel like he's ready to patch things up, man. He seemed very happy to be back and cool to be hanging around, you know, Renee Young, who he's always been cool with. He had Samoa Joe there. Adam Cole was in the studio. So it was a good little, you know, first taste of WWE. Instead of taking this guy to a Raw or SmackDown or pay-per-view where he's surrounded by the entire company, you know, just a little taste first. Here's 4 or 5 people, you know, then next thing you know, text messages start flying. You start talking to more people. Before you know it, you and Triple H are having lunch together. So, well, let's sit back and watch, see where it goes. I'm just happy that he's here now, at least on TV, because I don't know what CM Punk can really offer us in the ring anymore, but we all know what he can do verbally, and I think it's going to be fun to watch him on WWE Backstage. Their rating went way up, and a lot of people wonder why WWE brought him back kind of out of the blue like this. The week before, they got like 50,000 viewers for that show, so that might have been a huge, you know, panic there in the company. They're like, all right, let's get CM Punk, because with Punk on that show, I don't know really numbers. If I had to guess, I would think it would be like 5 times more the rating, you know, with someone like Punk on there. You would have to think that more than 50,000 people are going to watch that if he's there. So that's probably the reason why he was initially brought back, and where it leads from here, who knows? Why don't we talk about our friend Jordan Myles, who just seems to be going batshit nuts. Now, we all remember the t-shirt controversy from a few weeks ago. He came out very upset about the shirt. Most everybody kind of had his back. We kind of looked at the shirt and like, yeah, it's kind of fucked up. I can see how the mistake was made. I don't think anything was done deliberately. That wasn't a racist intention there. But the fact that shirt that not only had a racist tone to it, but was also just boring and bland as hell, how that t-shirt got made, printed, and approved and sold, and how it made it through that entire process, to me, was the most amazing thing. And WWE immediately pulled it down. A lot of fans were immediately behind, Jordan Myles. Yeah, dude, you're right. That's fucked up. They should try a little bit harder. You're a heck of a talent, and you shouldn't be wasted. You should be taken seriously. And everybody had his back. And then more reports come out that he was fine with it at first, that he approved the design, that he helped pick out his name and all this shit. So something had happened to him. I don't know if he started I don't know how his wrestling knowledge is. I don't know if he's been a lifelong fan or how much he knows about the business, but maybe he was just sitting at home one night on YouTube researching all the different racist things WWE has done in the past and got himself all bent out of shape. And next thing you know, he's going on Twitter tirades. And the problem is, when you're trying to do a message like that, and you're trying to spread a message or trying to get something known, he did it in such the wrong way to where he made himself the focal point of it because he was going so nuts. He was going so overboard and, immediately calling out this company as racist and this and that. And then the whole thing kind of feels like it blows over, goes away. You feel like WWE management's probably been in contact with him. They've probably patched it up. He'll probably be back on TV at some point. And then out of the blue, he's on Twitter posting a video from his car. I don't know if he's fucked up or what, or if he's just mad or angry or what his deal is, and he's calling a bunch of racists and says that Jordan Myles is a slave name and he's not going to work for that fucking company and this and that, and he just refuses to go back. He's just not going back. He's office spacing WWE and continued more on Twitter, going on and on. You just really just harsh, like angry stuff to where it's taking the focus away from his initial message, which I think is really bad. Because his initial message was not bad, but then he takes it so overboard that he makes himself the center of attention instead of the issue that he's trying to, project. So he went about it all wrong. And it's getting really hard to take him seriously. And also, shout out to Jeremy Lambert on Fightful.com, who put up all of the transcript from his Twitter Q&A. I guess he did a Twitter Q&A yesterday. Let me just read, and I'm sorry for this bright light in my face, but let me just read you a couple of the highlights of things that he said. He just hosted a live Q&A on Twitter. By the way, he closed his Twitter account and then reopened another one or reopened an old one. So ACH has got a whole new Twitter account now. You can go find that. I don't think I'm following it. But anyway, some of the highlights of the Q&A, he says he feels good. He picks New Japan over AEW. He says he has nothing against AEW, but he has more to accomplish in New Japan. Says he hasn't spoken to anyone in WWE. He did not hack WWE Games social media, which I think that was hilarious that somebody asked him that. Thinks the Booker T Triple H. Now, this is what was interesting. He thinks the Booker T Triple H angle was a little bit racist, calls Vince using the N-word tasteless, and it was a slap in the face to the culture. Now, here's the thing. He's not really wrong about that. I agree with him about the Triple H Booker T stuff a little bit. Even though I think I was one of the few people to defend Triple H's victory at WrestleMania. I know I'm one of the only ones. I'm in the extreme minority there. I understand that. But I had my reasons for why I didn't think it was so bad and the position that Triple H was in. And I wasn't losing my shit. Plus, the match wasn't even the main event. But I know the angle itself did rub a few people the wrong way. And I don't know what the hell Vince was thinking. Even back then, what year was that? Then he dropped the N-word, 2006 or something. Even at that time, I feel like that was unacceptable. So Vince is probably embarrassed as shit, and I think Vince would love to take that one back. But again, he's not wrong. Jordan is not wrong about this stuff, but why now? That's why I'm thinking he was just maybe smoking some bong hits and getting on YouTube one night and going down the rabbit hole, and the next thing you know, he's coming across all these fucking racist angles in WWE, and he got himself all bent out of shape. What the hell is he? If he knew all of this, what the hell did he sign with the company for? You know what I mean? He says he misses people in WWE, but doesn't name anyone specifically. Wants to go wherever he can showcase his ability and talent. Can't answer questions about WWE extending his contract and having him sit out, which is something they might do just out of spite to this guy since he went so damn nuts. He admits he got goosebumps when he saw Kofi Kingston win the title. He isn't legally cleared to move on from WWE, but he's mentally free, he says, which I can relate to that. He admits he suffers from anxiety and depression, which, you know, he might be on medication for that, which might explain the extreme mood swings that we've seen from this guy in Twitter videos. But when he speaks out, it still has meaning behind it. Not anymore, dude. You know, you're going overboard now. I can't really take him seriously now. I don't know about the rest of you, but, you know, that's a shame. That's the bad part of this, is that he actually had a good message initially and he fucked it up. He says a lot of past anger came out with the t-shirt situation, won't apologize because he meant it. Says the WWE and the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship are his dream titles to win. So it's still his dream to win the WWE title, even though it's a title in the company of a bunch of racists. This guy makes no sense. So anyway, he's got a new Twitter account. It is at ACHIsSuper, and you can go follow him there and watch this roller coaster ride of unstableness. And I wish him well, man. I wish him well. I hope he finds peace, because he certainly doesn't seem to have it now. But anyway, that whole situation's a mess. We'll see the way that plays out going forward. Speaking of tweets, Brian Kendrick, I don't know if this is storyline or what, but I had it written down here in my notes because I came across it on Twitter. But Brian Kendrick is going to take an indefinite leave of absence from the ring. He revealed this in a tweet. He says, it's been 3 years since my last cruiserweight title opportunity. Since then, it has become evident that nobody on WWE 205 Live understands nor respects the road that I have paved for them. That makes me think it's kayfabe. Therefore, I am taking an indefinite leave of absence from the ring. So I don't know if maybe he's just taking time off and this is his explanation for it, because he is 40 years old and he's wrestling at a cruiserweight level. So he's, you know, probably doesn't need to be working completely full time. So I don't know if he's going to be leaving the company. That's my laundry buzzer going off, by the way, if you can hear that. I don't know if he's going to be leaving WWE, or if maybe he's just taking a couple of months off to nurse some injuries, or he requested time off, or what the hell this means, and he'll be back. Could mean anything, but at least for right now, we're not going to see Spanky in the ring. Best of luck to you, buddy. You are always one of my favorites. In another really strange WWE doing something, then changing their mind and can't figure out which way is up, Mustafa Ali has gotten his name back. Somebody noticed it on WWE.com that his profile was back to saying Mustafa Ali, and then he tweeted out, "This is my name," and he's very happy to have that name back. And they've done this, WWE's done this a bunch of times. We know they've taken away a lot of last names, you know, Biggie Langston and Antonio Cesaro and what was Rusev's name? The hell was Rusev's name? I can't remember Rusev's first name. Anyway, those guys lose their names. Sometimes they take away a name like Eric Rowan and then give it back to him. Same thing with Harper. And now they're doing that with Mustafa Ali. So this company infuriates me so bad. I know people want to be happy that Mustafa Ali got his name back, and I'm very happy about that too, but I'm almost more mad that they took it away from him to begin with. What is wrong with this company? Like, what drives these decisions? What dumbass back there one day said, you know what? We should just make him Ali. And then, months later, what dumbass decided, oh, let's give him Mustafa back? Like, what are you even thinking about that for? None of that shit matters. Concentrate on trying to keep your shit organized, because as we're about to talk about here with Raw and SmackDown and NXT and War Games and Survivor Series, everything is a mess. Everything's in a blender. It feels like all the WWE talent just got put into a blender and you're spinning it around and you don't know what the fuck's going on. Hell, last night on SmackDown, Shayna Baszler's War Games opponents came out to help her out. So enough with this who should have a name and what should their name be and shit like that. Concentrate on shit that matters, WWE, and stop jerking these guys around, you assholes. And speaking of those assholes, their WWE 2K Facebook page got what they deserved. Holy shit. So they got hacked, I guess, yesterday. I saw a few screenshots. Some of it was bad. I really don't like it when people hack a page and then just put racial slurs. Like, how stupid are you? You know, if you're smart enough to hack a page like that, why are you so stupid to resort to like those useless insults, you know? So saw a little bit of that, which was dumb. And I usually don't like it when things get hacked. This is just so particularly funny because the 2K video game is a mess. It's filled with glitches and all the fans are bitching about it. Luckily, I don't play video games, so it doesn't affect me, but I've been seeing and hearing and watching all of the anger driven towards this video game. So their Facebook page got hacked. I saw one screenshot where they made the banner picture Chris Benoit for the Hall of Fame and the profile picture AEW logo, which... I know I'm going to hell, but I laughed. And another one was they changed their profile picture to Paige. And let's just say that Paige, she wasn't eating a glazed donut. Let's just put it that way. So that stuff I found like just comical. And I think it's okay to laugh at that. I think it's within our rights as fans and immature idiots to laugh at shit like that from time to time, and I got a huge kick out of that. But I think they did fix it, and then they released a statement like, those don't reflect our views. I'm like, no shit. Any idiot with two eyes can see that you got hacked. You don't have to fall all over yourself to apologize. It happens. You know what I mean? But anyway, that was funny stuff, and one of the highlights of the week, I believe. All right, so we're gonna get into Raw first, just super briefly. I mean, super briefly. Oh shit, and I thought I accidentally deleted something earlier. I deleted a couple of my Raw notes, but that's okay. I remember them. And then after that, we'll talk about AEW and NXT, and then we'll round it out with SmackDown, and then preview the Survivor Series card. We'll be previewing the War Games card in between there as well. Let me just peek back over here to the chat and catch up on a couple of super chats before we jump into Monday Night Raw. Antoine Fair, thank you, brother, for the $5. Don't understand Heyman in this because he meaning Paul now can bring it together. He doesn't need title matches for what the fans want from him. Oh, underestimate Heyman in this. Oh, yeah, I would never underestimate Paul Heyman's creative mind. I just underestimate what his creative mind can do inside the confines of the WWE's prison. You know what I mean? So I don't know, like when we see so many Monday Night Raws that continue to be lackluster now 4, 5, 6 months after he was brought in as the executive director of TV, you have to wonder how much of this really falls on his shoulders and how much control he really has. You know, and when you hear these stories of, oh, they have complete control, Vince is going to be concentrating on the XFL, it doesn't appear that that's the case based on what we've seen on Raw, because we have a lot of stupid shit going on, which we're about to talk about. So we're going to open with that. We're going to talk about Monday Night Raw first. And like I said, I'm literally talking about 3 things here. We're going to talk about 2 matches on the show, and then, of course, 1 angle. And we're going to start with the angle. Pardon me while I take a sip of my delicious Jersey Mike's beverage. So they've got the 3-way love triangle shit going on, or not really a love triangle, but Lana has left Rusev for Lashley. They've done a lot of stupid things on TV. They've done the King's Court. They've done the King's Divorce Court. We had the brawl in the restaurant. We've had Lana and Lashley making out over Rusev's body. It's been crazy. So, and it's been shit. Like, I've absolutely hated it. So on Raw, like I said, Raw was taped on Saturday in Manchester. So the news of this came out that there was going to be a pregnancy angle. And I'm like, well, son of a bitch, these idiots. You know, what makes me so upset about a pregnancy angle is that it can only end, there's only one solution for it. I mean, unless Lana's really pregnant, which we know she's not, there's only one solution for an angle like this in 2019, and that is she's lying. So what fun is that? What fun is a pregnancy angle if you know the payoff and the result is going to be that she's lying? Because you can't do what you did in the Attitude Era. You absolutely cannot do a miscarriage angle now. They would never do that. I think not even WWE's that fucking dumb. So you know you can't do a miscarriage angle. Mike and Maria just had a pregnancy angle themselves, but since Mike has wanted his release right after signing his new contract, they've kind of dropped that whole thing, and it feels like they were just desperate to continue on with some pregnancy thing. But the difference in that one was that Maria's really pregnant. So when you have an angle like this, you either have to be really pregnant or you have to be lying, and that's it. So I was like, well, this is going to be dumb because we know how it's going to end. So you fast forward to Monday night, they air this stupid ass angle, and Lana informs Rusev that she's pregnant and that the baby is his, which was just done to toy with him. Bobby Lashley comes out and kicks his ass. And as Lana and Lashley are leaving up the stage and making out and kissing, you can hear Lana saying, "I can't believe he fell for it. He actually thought I was pregnant." So to WWE's credit, they revealed right away that it was bullshit. What would have made me really mad, as if this angle hasn't made me mad enough, what would have pissed me off is if they dragged this out for like 2 months, 3 months, just to reveal that she's lying. You're like, no shit, we know that. So anyway, that angle's a mess. Now, Rusev, interestingly enough, has been... I love this man. I absolutely love this man. What makes Rusev is the fact that he's going out of his way, making it known that he approves of this angle, he likes this angle, he helped come up with this angle, and that anybody that doesn't think that this angle is any good is a basement dweller. Shout out to Telexman, who I was at work last night and I saw a DM from him, and he's like, "Did you see what Rusev said and all this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did." Don't you understand that he's fucking with you? Rusev is not like Seth Rollins. Rusev is not the type of guy, based on what we've seen from this guy on social media and his very strange, dry sense of humor. I promise you, he is messing with you. You know, he is the ultimate troll. He's fucking brilliant. I told Deluxe Man, I'm like, if Rusev called me a chicken fucker, I'd completely accept it. You know, because he's great and I want him to troll people. Because it's so easy to get people upset. It's so easy to get fans upset, especially fans, when a wrestler takes the time to maybe criticize them a little bit. Every time this happens, they flip out. And I know that Rusev does not care. He's just messing with people. He likes to get them stirred up. Now he's defending the angle. Lance Storm we found out a couple of months ago, was closing up his Storm Wrestling Academy and heading back to the WWE in 2020 as a producer. And he's been tweeting about that recently, and I think he tweeted out today or yesterday about coming back to the WWE, and it's him closing up his wrestling school. You know, there's good and bad. And Rusev quotes the tweet, and he said, "There is no bad in WWE." Which is funny, you know, he's just going out of his way to really defend the company, defend the angle, and the fact that he's doing this so outwardly makes me think that he's completely messing with everybody. I think he's possibly trolling the WWE too. He probably hates the angle, but he's going out there just saying how great it is, just to rib. I just think it's more of a rib than anything else. I don't think Rusev really feels that way about the fans. And do fans really care if they get called a basement dweller? I wish I had a basement. I miss my basement as a kid growing up in the house that I had in Michigan. They never had basements in North Carolina where I lived, and I'm on a 3rd floor apartment up here. One day I want to have a basement, and I want to be in it, watching wrestling and talking about wrestling. I want to be doing this podcast in a basement. Somebody calls me a basement dweller, doesn't bother me. So anybody that's upset with Rusev, calm down. He's cool. He's way cooler than you, to be honest with you. And just let him do his thing. I find it quite entertaining, and I think we should leave it at that. We also saw, now what made me not mad, but what was disappointing about the big match on Raw, I think the biggest one-on-one match, was on paper an absolute masterpiece of a match. Seth Rollins and Walter, holy shit. The problem with this match, though, is Seth Rollins was in the ring cutting a promo, basically issued an open challenge. Walter came out there to accept it, but in the midst of this Raw, SmackDown, NXT war, the match was really put together for the purposes of that. It didn't even go very long. We got the run-in from the Imperium, and Seth was saved by the Street Profits and Kevin Owens, which then turned into an 8-man tag that the babyfaces won. So if this match would have been completely separate, like if this would have been a Raw in Manchester, a different time of the year, completely separate from Survivor Series with no invasions and no shit like that, I would have loved to see Walter accept Seth's challenge and that match main event Monday Night Raw. That would have been phenomenal. That would have been easily the best wrestling we would have seen all week across all the shows. But since it was done within the context of this war, the match didn't feel like anything. And it sucks because that's kind of a dream confrontation there. And we didn't get much of it. So that was another disappointment on Raw. And the other thing that kind of made me a little bit confused was that, I don't know if there's an injury. I didn't even read up on this. You know what? Because I didn't care. But Becky Lynch and Charlotte got a tag team title shot against the Kabuki Warriors. Now, didn't the week before Charlotte and Natty beat the Kabuki Warriors? So why the hell is Becky in the ring with them? I thought when they won that match, that was going to lead to a title match. Natalya must have not been on TV or been off or been hurt or whatever. I don't know what the story on that was. All I thought was that was really dumb. And why are two completely different people getting a title shot? And why does Becky even need to be there? It should be Natalya anyway. And I don't even know why Natalya and Charlotte were put together either, but I don't really hate that tag team on paper. Number one, it keeps Charlotte out of the world title picture, at least for a little while, and it basically makes a tag team out of Bret Hart's niece and Ric Flair's daughter. What's not to like, you know? So if they were going to put them together, at least temporarily, I was okay with that. And then on Raw, we got Becky and Charlotte. And I'm disappointed in all those women. I'm disappointed in all four of them for that one horrible spot. All four of them, those women are pros. Becky, Charlotte, Asuka, Kyrie. You don't get better than that talent in the WWE. That's arguably the four best they got, right? So, I mean, if you could add Bayley and Sasha in there, but with all of that talent and all of that experience, what the hell were they doing with that tag spot? So you saw, I can't remember who it was now. I think it was Charlotte. Was it Charlotte trying to reach for the tag for Becky? She's right there, but she's supposed to get stopped. But Asuka, Kyrie, whoever it is not there yet. They're late. And she's literally just an inch away from her hand, and she's acting like she can't reach her. And it looked so awful. It's some shit you would have seen in front of 15 people in a high school gym in deer shit, Alabama. Not on Monday Night Raw on cable television. Horrible shit from four professionals. But luckily, the Kabukis got the win, and the Kabukis got the win without the green mist. There you go, Asuka. Way to go. I think Asuka rolled up Becky and pinned her. She got some distraction from Shayna Baszler, I think, who appeared at ringside. But one of my biggest complaints with the Kabuki so far is that we're seeing that green mist way too often. So very happy that the Kabukis picked up a victory there without it, and we didn't have to worry about Charlotte and Becky being tag team champions, because I'm sure the fans would have loved that, and that would have put Becky back to being Becky Two Belts again, and I don't think anybody wanted that. So that's all I'm going to discuss for Raw. The rest of the show I don't care about. It sucked. Raw's the worst show on television right now. Let's move on to AEW Dynamite and talk about that. Man, this show was really fun. We got treated to two good shows on Wednesday. This is one of my favorite weeks so far. Now, AEW, I will say this, as much as I enjoyed Dynamite, I didn't think it was as good as a post pay-per-view show should have been. I thought AEW was easily going to have the better show coming off the heels of Full Gear. The ratings are in, by the way. I think they got 9. I didn't write any of these down. I forgot to. Pretty sure AEW got like 950,000 and NXT got around 750. So AEW is back in the lead again after that very close call last week with WWE. But the show opens up with Jon Moxley defeating Michael Nakazawa in like less than a minute. He gets on the mic and basically issues an open challenge for next week. Now, Kenny Omega was not clear to wrestle. I think they opened with him being talked to in the trainer's room, and they're like, no, you can't go, but Moxley was. The two of them beat the hell out of each other at Full Gear. I mean, to an extreme level, and that sparked a debate as well. Now, I did my Full Gear review on Saturday night. I thought the match was fantastic. I liked all the things that they did, but I also acknowledge that violence to that degree, violence to that level, where you're dragging bodies across broken glass and jumping on barbed wire trampolines, I don't need to see that stuff all the time. I'm fine with that being on extreme rare occasions, and the two of them have already had some pretty gnarly spots together that all started with that glass coffee table DDT. As a matter of fact, that was the same glass, apparently, that they used in this match, was the glass from that shattered coffee table. So based on everything that the two of these guys have done with each other so far, this match, at least you can say they had all this coming. It wasn't like a hardcore for the sake of hardcore. That's when I don't like it. We saw a lot of that in ECW, near the end. You just have random hardcore matches between two guys that don't even really have an issue with each other. But yet they got to put each other through tables and use baseball bats on each other and shit like that. So not a fan of that. In terms of the Moxley and Omega match, I do not have any issue with it at all. I was surprised. And when you have an issue with this, what it really boils down to, fans can debate whether it was too hardcore, too violent, all you want. It's one of those issues, again, that's extremely transparent. It's not really about the match. It's about which company you like better. So I guarantee you, there aren't any AEW fans that are saying that match was too violent. This is all coming from the anti-AEW camp that's trying to find legit excuses as to why this company's not as good or whatever, just trying to hold them down, verbally. You see that all the time on Twitter from all the fucking nut jobs on both sides, giving shit to the other company and starting to make up ideas in their head as to why they're not good, trying to come up with legit reasons when it's biased reasons. So I'm not going to take anybody seriously who says that match was too much, because all you have to do, you can't be like, I saw somebody that I know on Twitter that was a hardcore ECW fan, loved that promotion, thought it was one of the greatest things in wrestling, and said Omega and Moxley was too violent. That's just ridiculous. So as long as this isn't a weekly occurrence, and as long as they don't feel like they have to put one of these matches on every single one of their pay-per-views, I'm perfectly fine with what they did because they got creative as hell. Maybe they didn't need a couple of things. I didn't need the barbed wire trampoline, because that seemed like something that was a prop put together for the purposes of this match. I'd rather make it look like, aside from a barbed wire baseball bat or a broom or something, I'd rather have them utilize the stuff at ringside and not bring out too much crazy stuff. So maybe they could have done without the spider web spot, but I think my favorite spot was when he started tearing the ring up. That was awesome, exposing, the lumber underneath, and Kenny Omega missed the 450 splash and face planted right on it, and Moxley won with the DDT at the end. I loved the little sequence of moves and the little small match they had on that little triangle of the ring there, exposed on the wood. I thought that was an excellent finish. Gory, bloody, very, uncomfortable to see Moxley's neck bleeding like that. Renee was losing her shit on Twitter. So for the wow factor and the blood and violence factor, I thought it was fucking awesome. I can tolerate that match every now and then. Now, again, at the very next pay-per-view, if we get the same thing between two guys, it's probably not something that I need to see because that's when you overdo it. But for certain programs, for certain storylines, I'm fine with this because what this says is that AEW has the freedom to give us these type of matches. WWE has Hell in the Cell matches. They have a whole pay-per-view dedicated to Hell in the Cell where they don't even do any blood unless it's by accident. So we kind of miss, getting some blood here and there and getting some thumbtack spots. Everybody loved, the Mick Foley and Edge match. They're lighting tables on fire and going through thumbtacks. You don't think they overdid it a little bit in 2006? Why would that match be okay and be considered one of the greatest WrestleMania matches in history, but Omega and Moxley is not? Makes no sense. So I'm fine with it. I like that AEW has that freedom. I like that AEW can feed that audience that craves that. I personally don't. I don't need it. I'm perfectly fine with just good standard wrestling. I've always been that way, but I'm not necessarily anti-violence. I'm just anti-excessive violence. And I don't think that we're really getting that from AEW at this point. I don't think they're ECW 2.0. Nothing like that. The most hardcore violence we've seen really has been with those two guys. And aside from that, I can only think of Dustin bleeding ridiculously in that match with Cody. But, other than that, I don't think it's been over the top. It hasn't pushed me too far to where I'm like, okay, enough's enough. But I did make it known on Twitter after the match that I don't need to see that all the time. But when I do, it's nice to know that there is a company that can give us that here in the States. Japan can give us shit like that every now and then too, but AEW is a little bit easier to watch here. Really fun match on AEW as well. Dark Order took on Jurassic Express. Dark Order won with a fatality on Marco. And another little side note about Marco's stunt, when I watched that, he's in the ring, he's doing his thing. To me, I don't know if he's been eating a lot or working out, but he seems to really be bulking up. And if he keeps eating at this pace, he might balloon up to, 110, 115 pounds. Getting pretty big. Anyway, he's in there doing his thing, but he lost, so like all of these people that, again, have these really strong opinions about somebody like Marco Stunt, it's just so silly, to give a shit this bad about Marco Stunt and Orange Cassidy. The thing that I don't like the most about this debate is that the people that don't like these guys are acting as if they're world title contenders and they're in the main event and they're heavily featured. They're just small parts of the show, and more often than not, they're losing. So I just don't think it's a big deal to care that much. And again, it might not even have anything to do with Marco Stunt or anybody else. It has to do with your little petty issues with AEW. So if you don't like Marco Stunt, you probably don't give a shit about Marco Stunt. You don't like AEW is your problem. Again, I seriously doubt there's any AEW fans that are saying, we really don't like him. People tend to like what the company does. They give us entertaining wrestling shows that is different from WWE. You know, everybody wants something different. So then they put an 85-pound guy in the ring, which is different, and then people are pissed. I don't know. People are spending way too much time debating shit that does not matter. And anyway, the funny part about this match is that after Marco took the pin, I guess the Dark Order tried to recruit him into being, what are they called? The creepers, the fuckers, and the gimp masks. So they basically wanted to turn him into one of them, which I think would be perfect for him, because one thing I've said about Marco Stunt all along is, as much as I defend his spot on the roster, and I have no issue whatsoever with this guy in there throwing DDTs on people, I do not care. He's a little creepy bastard, isn't he? He does kind of have that like creepy look to him. And I wouldn't want to be like alone in a room with him. So it feels like if he joined the creepers, it might be a perfect little role for him. But anyway, he doesn't. He says no. They start beating the shit out of him. Jungle Boy comes in, tries to help out. He gets the shit beaten out of him. And the Dark Order is just mauling both of these guys. And I said it out loud. I was right here on my couch. And I'm like, this is the perfect time for Luchasaurus to come back. And before the sentence was even out of my mouth, his music hits. He comes down. He cleans house back way sooner than I think we expected him to be from his injury. Came down, kicked ass. Huge pop. Crowd went absolutely nuts. Everybody really adores Luchasaurus. And he's great. Glad to see him back. And now Jurassic Express is back to full strength, which probably means a little bit less Marco Stunt in the ring, which is good. Interesting matchup next. Excuse me. Triple threat. Darby Allin versus Shawn Spears versus, what's the guy's name? Avalon? What is his name? Forgot his first name. The library dude. Anyway, Joey Janela comes out during this match and chases off Shawn Spears, allowing Darby to hit the coffin drop for the win. And after the match, he got on the mic and he accepted Jon Moxley's open challenge that he issued in the beginning of the show. And that match is going to take place next week. Just take a big deep breath and just let that one sink in. Moxley, Darby Allin. I gave the nod to NXT this week, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but I think based on what I'm looking the most forward to next week on both shows, I'm much more looking forward to Darby Allin and Moxley than I am Cole versus Dominik Dijakovic, because they're doing the same thing on NXT with the ladder match that they did with the women this past week. And Darby Allin and Moxley is a match we've never seen before. It's going to be on TV. You know they're going to get nuts. And that match, it just has fun written all over it. That's all that match is going to be, is fun. Don't care who wins. I think Moxley probably will, but that's going to be a dandy. I'm ready to see that. Very fun stuff. Nyla Rose won a squash match. We had Tony Schiavone interviewing Allie. The lights go out and Brandy is coming out there with Awesome Kong again. They beat up Allie. They take that knife and cut her hair. So Brandy is a witch or some shit. I don't know what they're really doing here or where they're going, but I guess she's got some weird, this is just some new gimmick for her, and she's going to be some sorceress. I have zero interest in this. I have less interest in what Brandy's doing than I do with what Rusev and Lana and Lashley are doing, and that's saying something. Really don't care about that storyline at all. The next segment on Dynamite was probably the best segment of the week. Oh, easily the best segment of the week. What am I talking about? Probably. No, it easily is the best segment of the week. Jericho's out there cutting a promo, talking about his victory over Cody Rhodes at Full Gear, and just talking shit, being Jericho, talking about the bubbly, the whole thing. MJF then comes out. It looks like Cody's coming out. Cody's music hits, and he rises up through the stage like that as part of his entrance. But when he comes out, it's MJF and not Cody, and the crowd just goes nuts. This guy's got true, real heel heat that seems impossible for people to get these days. I just can't think of anybody that can generate that type of reaction from the crowd without having to be cheap about it. MJF, he's one of the best heels out there right now. So anyway, he comes down to the ring, does a nice little monologue that cuts a nice little promo on Cody Rhodes and talks about their friendship. Very good stuff. Did not seem to be nervous or too caught up in the moment. You got to remember, this guy's on TNT. This guy's on cable TV, cutting a promo on a big wrestling show here, and he handled it very, very well. And then it got even better because he turned to Jericho. And the two of them had one of the most fun promos I've seen in a long time. Very reminiscent, as Chris said earlier on in the chat, very reminiscent of the type of stuff that Jericho would do with Kevin Owens. and they were calling each other by their full names. MJF was calling Christopher Chris Christopher, and Jericho was calling him Maxwell. Seashells by the seashore, and all this shit was being said. And basically they start teasing if MJF is going to join the Inner Circle. And MJF is like, do you want me to join the Inner Circle? And Jericho's like, do you want to be in the Inner Circle? And this went back and forth. They traded a couple of insults as well. Jericho said that MJF is so young. You know, he was probably conceived when his parents got all aroused watching Jericho beat the hell out of Juventud. And then there's a Hoovy chant. And MJF says, who the hell is Hoovy? Hoovy always gets called out. Remember, he got called out in Jericho's debut. When The Rock said, who are you? You little jabroni. People know who you are because a couple of months ago you were beating a guy named Juventud or whatever. So Hoovy always gets shit on. Pretty funny. And they wind up going back and forth about the Inner Circle thing. They're in each other's faces. They're teasing they're going to fight. And then they want to talk about who the biggest jackass in wrestling is. You want to know who the biggest jackass in wrestling is? Yeah, I'll tell you the biggest jackass in wrestling is. They go back and forth, and then at the same time, they both blurt out Cody Rhodes. Very reminiscent of what they did after the Survivor Series with Jericho and Kevin Owens when they're teasing dissension, and then they shift all of the blame at once to Roman Reigns. Very good stuff. But again, you kind of saw it coming. When they were saying, do you want to know who the biggest jackass is? I knew they were going to, in unison, say Cody Rhodes, but it still didn't make it any less of a moment. Fantastic stuff. I live for promos like that. I live for segments like that. It's magic when it happens, and it was magic on Wednesday. So props to Jericho and MJF. More of that, please. Now, Cody would wind up making his presence known here. He hits the ring, starts attacking MJF and fighting with him and Jericho, which is surprising because he has that notch, that chunk of head taken out at Full Gear. He had just skin hanging off, just a horrible looking cut. That scar is going to be with him for the rest of his life. That's going to leave a nasty one. So he's out there fighting in this thing. You can even see the thing getting opened back up again. And then he's then attacked by, what was his name? Wardlow, right? Now, I have not seen, apparently they've run vignettes for this guy. I must have been in the bathroom. I must have been just not mentally watching or something like that, but I've seen no such promos or no such vignettes for this guy, so I had no clue who the fuck he was. So huge looking bastard. And when I researched it more, I'm like, oh yeah, they have been talking about him. I have no idea how I managed to miss that at all. Crowd wasn't really quite sure who he was as well, but this is a big debut. This is a big monster, and he's now being presented as MJF's muscle, his bodyguard, his Diesel to his Shawn Michaels, if you will. And that's pretty good. That's exactly what I even said this. I can't remember if I said it out loud in my own house or if I said it on a live stream, but I mentioned the idea of MJF having a bodyguard. He's the type of heel that would have a bodyguard. I've actually thought about this before. So that's perfect. That's a perfect fit. He can now have a big-ass dude backing him up, and he can run his little scrawny-ass mouth even more, pissing off even more people, and that just adds to his heat. So I'm really excited to see now this MJF and Cody Rhodes feud. This should be a lot of fun. Dustin Rhodes, I'm sure, will wind up getting back involved in this at some point as well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This should be fun stuff. We had another match between Adam Page and Pac. Now, this is a rematch from Full Gear. This is a very WWE thing to do a pay-per-view on the show or do a rematch from the pay-per-view on the very next show, especially when that match had a winner, and that was billed as the rubber match, and now they're saying that this one is the rubber match, and Pac got his win back right away after losing at Full Gear, wound up knocking Page out. Page is completely unresponsive, and that allows Pac to hit the Black Arrow and lock in the Brutalizer submission. But since Page is unresponsive, the referee just calls for the bell. So Pac and Page look to have settled their beef, and I think that was their way of keeping both guys strong because Page didn't have to submit because he was knocked out, and Pac overcame the loss that he took at Full Gear. So I think the point there was to kind of 50-50 book this thing and to keep both guys no less strong than they were before going into this feud is what I think. If anything else, maybe elevate both of them a little bit. We had a really fun Young Bucks and Proud and Powerful brawl that spanned all over the arena. Little Orange Cassidy cameo, which was fun, which was the best part. Private Party got involved in that. Now, I guess next week, which is another reason why I'm really looking forward to Dynamite more next week, is that I guess they're setting up Private Party versus Proud and Powerful. This is going to be a tribute match to independent wrestler Matt Travis, who passed away. A lot of my colleagues and everybody on YouTube knew this guy pretty well. I did not, but very tragic death, and it affected a lot of people. And Private Party and Proud and Powerful have a lot of history with this guy. So next week's match is going to be basically billed as a tribute to Matt, and it should be pretty emotional and pretty good. So AEW stacking up a pretty good-looking show next week. And then in the main event, it was a tag team title match. Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara getting a title shot against SCU. And I thought about it, and I'm like, oh, man, are they going to do the double champion thing? WWE does that shit all the time. I don't really want to see them do it in AEW, especially since SCU just recently won the titles. But they didn't. They wound up retaining, thank God. And Scorpio Sky got the pin on Jericho, which was kind of out of the blue and kind of nice. It just kind of gives a random dude a big victory. Might even lead to some random tune-up title match for Jericho down the line. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Jericho puts the title on the line against Scorpio on TV one week, and Jericho wins. One thing I am kind of smelling, though, and you guys are probably better at knowing the SCU history than I am, so tell me if you agree with this or not. I feel like Daniels is going to turn at some point. I feel like Daniels, given his age, how long he's been running with SCU, that maybe he can find his way into the inner circle and join up with Chris Jericho, especially if the issue with Scorpio Sky and Jericho isn't over. Maybe if it does lead to a match and you do some sort of a heel turn with Daniels at some point. I kind of feel like that could come. I almost felt like it might happen on Wednesday. I saw Daniels out there. I'm like, this would be a perfect opportunity for him to turn heel now, cost his team the tag team titles, and join up with the inner circle. I kind of thought it might happen, but it didn't. But maybe it'll happen in the future. Am I way off on thinking that, or do you guys agree with that possibility? So that was your AEW in a nutshell there. Like I said, excellent show. Very, very, very good show. But NXT just gave me a few things that I just personally like better. And like I said, I'm not proclaiming, I'm not saying NXT was a better show. I'm saying NXT was a better show to me. Just like all the other weeks, AEW was the better show to me. And I have a pretty strong feeling that next week AEW will also be the better show for me. But this week, not so much. NXT entertained the hell out of me. Jesus Christ, man. So we had the Cruiserweight title match opening up. Angel Garza earned that opportunity last week to face Lio Rush for the title. Very good match. Lio Rush hitting the final hour for the win. Garza had his foot in the rope, so that might set up a rematch here. Garza was even doing some stuff in front of Lio Rush's family on the outside of the ring. Really good match and a really solid, fun opener. And since these Wednesday night wars have started, both shows have done a really good job of opening well. All of their matches have been solid. Even on AEW, who changed it up a little bit and gave us like a 30-second match, but a nice little Moxley promo at the end, talking about what we saw with him and Omega and issuing the open challenge that Darby Allin would accept. So I thought both shows every week have really solid openers, but this week I'm giving the nod to NXT. We started seeing a bunch of backstage beatdowns. Tegan Nox and Rhea Ripley were laid out backstage, and we're like, oh shit, who was that? And it was probably somebody from Raw or SmackDown. So that would be a running theme throughout the night. We had kind of just a developmental match between Xia Li and Aaliyah. Aaliyah's been in the company for a while. She's good-looking little girl, very reminiscent of Carmella, but again, not much special with either one of these two. And I guess Xia Li has had a history of maybe hurting a couple people before, and she caught Aaliyah with a pretty stiff shot and busted her nose up a little bit. The funny thing is when I saw it, when I was watching it on TV, I thought it was fake. I thought that she nailed her, and the training staff came in with like a gimmicked towel to make it look like she was bleeding. But then she posted a picture on social media of her backstage with a busted up nose. So I guess it was legit. But when I watched it, I actually thought that it was a work. So I guess I got fooled. And that was a broken nose the hard way. So hope she's all right. If that is indeed a broken nose, wish her well and get well soon, girl. We had a Finn Balor promo. This was pretty good as well. He's basically complaining about the business and what's happened to this business, and complains about social media and fans, and winds up calling out Matt Riddle. Now, it looked like they were pivoting here because we were all set for a Balor and Gargano match, at War Games. Gargano has not been cleared, and he's been ruled out for all of that weekend's festivities, so we will not see him at War Games or at Survivor Series. But they still wanted to give Finn Balor a takeover match. So now it seems like they're going to switch that up to Matt Riddle, which I'm perfectly fine with. Matt Riddle and Finn Balor? Fuck yeah. I'm into that. So we would get there as the night would progress. But he calls out Matt. Matt Riddle runs in and attacks Finn Balor. They start fighting a little bit. Finn Balor runs off, and then the Undisputed Era comes out to the ring, and they kind of surround Matt Riddle, threatening to attack him. And that's when he's joined by Keith Lee and Tommaso Ciampa, and this leads to a impromptu Keith Lee versus Roderick Strong match, which turned out to be excellent. Excellent match between the two, even given the size discrepancy between the two. Keith Lee is so fun to watch, and this dude can work with literally anybody. What a boss. Had a really good time watching this match. Just so much good stuff on this NXT show. But we had everybody out at ringside for this. Undisputed Era was out there. Riddle was out there. Ciampa was out there. Balor reappeared to attack Matt Riddle. Keith Lee wound up hitting his finisher during all of the commotion for the victory there. Dominik Dijakovic would hit the ring and help out as well and completely be a one-man wrecking crew and just take out all of Undisputed Era by himself, and basically tells Tommaso Ciampa that he wants a part on the team or spot on the team. Then they share kind of an intense handshake there, and then an even more intense handshake when Keith Lee is standing behind Dominik, because the two of them have had some wars recently on TV. They shake hands, and that appears to be your team, Ciampa, Lee, Riddle, and Dominik. But later on, Kathy Kelly would make the War Games match between Finn Balor and Matt Riddle official, essentially knocking Riddle out of the team. So we briefly had a 4-man team, but now Riddle is out, essentially taking the place of Johnny Gargano. So we've got one more person that needs to be added to the team. And if you ask me, there's only one name. There's only one name it can be, and this all is provided that this person is healthy. I have no idea what the backstage story on this is, but if they need one more man for NXT War Games, it's got to be Velveteen Dream. He's the biggest name. He's got the tie-in with Undisputed, who beat him down and injured him a few weeks ago on TV because he is injured. So if he's cleared to wrestle, he's going to be the guy, and that will have to be revealed this Wednesday, unless they try to reveal something at the pay-per-view. But I would imagine that Velveteen will be added to the team on Wednesday. If for any reason he's not cleared, I don't know who you do. I don't think it would be like Pete Dunne or Killian Dane or Damian Priest, because it feels like they're going to book them in a triple threat at War Games. So I think Velveteen is the one. It's got to be Velveteen. We cut backstage again. We had 3 more ladies beaten down. Marina Shafir, Jessamine Duke, and Candice LeRae all laid out. Now, these ladies are kind of on opposing sides on War Games. Duke and Shafir are not in the match, but they are aligned with Shayna. Candice is on the other side, so they're kind of all beaten down together. We had a quick match between Isaiah Scott over Bronson Reed. A little handshake and show of respect at the end, but a very strong match. And, of course, we then are into the main event, which was phenomenal. Ladder match. Io Shirai against Mia Yim. The winner of this match gets the War Games advantage. So there's a briefcase hanging above the ring. Whoever wins, their team will have the first entrant in the War Games match once the first 5 minutes have passed. And this shit was really good. Io Shirai, I'm a huge fan of. I just think she's fantastic. One of my favorite females across all 3 brands right now, honestly. And again, a really good display here and a really good illustration of how much better WWE's women division is than AEW. They have got them beat by so many miles here. It's not even close. The 2 girls can go in this match. They were brutalizing each other throughout this. Io Shirai took the majority of the ladder bumps at first, started to even out there at the end, and then it really evened out when Io does like a springboard dropkick into Mia Yim, who's holding the ladder. Ladder hits her right in the face, busts her nose all up. Immediately, there's blood on her face. Like, it was instant. It was like a video game. The minute that ladder hit her, you could see the blood all over her face. Everybody was scrambling. This is live TV. Doctors are in the ring, like 3 or 4 doctors in the ring, and like 2 referees. They're all surrounding her with towels, trying to clean her up. Io Shirai is trying to stall, which that was a kind of a down point in the match, because she's, when it's live TV, you don't know what the fuck to do. And so you're trying to like position the ladder, and really all she had to do was run up there and get it. But she kind of takes her time a little bit, and stalls, but I just didn't think that Mia was going to be able to go. I thought Io was going to have to climb up there right then and do the finish, because based on the way that ladder smacked Mia Yim in the face, I just did not think that she was going to be able to wrestle without a face full of blood. But they get her cleaned up enough to where she gets back in the action. And then this girl, after literally taking a face full of ladder, they go to the finish. She's climbed up there. She's got Io Shirai compromised. She's climbing up to the top to retrieve the briefcase, and that's when Kaylee Ray, NXT UK champion, runs down to the ring and pushes the ladder over. Mia Yim falls over the top rope on top of another ladder that's bridged between the apron and the guardrail and goes through that ladder in just a gnar slam. Oh my God. Just the thud that her body made. It was very much like, I felt like a men's ladder match. I mean, she just went right through that ladder, which we know those are wooden ladders painted black, so she didn't destroy steel or anything like that. But my God, to take a bump like that after eating a ladder, deep throating a ladder, just props to Mia Yim, man. She earned my respect. So did Io Shirai. I was thoroughly entertained by this match. It had twists, it had turns, it had good spots, and Io Shirai wound up grabbing the briefcase, and that does round out the women's team with Kaylee Ray now joining Team Shayna in the War Games match. So they would also announce as well, before the show would go off the air, that Dominik Dijakovic and Adam Cole, you talk about a size difference, Jesus, would also be involved in a ladder match next week for the same advantage. So they're basically doing the same match. Now, I think Dominik Dijakovic and Adam Cole in a ladder match is going to be fantastic, but can we take it easy on Adam Cole? I do not want this guy to get hurt. His run is reminding me a lot of Seth Rollins' run in 2015, where they're just working him to the bone. He's been in high-profile matches on every single show. Think about it. In recent weeks, he's taken on Daniel Bryan and Seth Rollins on Raw and SmackDown. Now he's going to be in this monumental ladder match here, and he's the NXT champion. He shouldn't even be involved in this match. This should be somebody else against Dijakovic, maybe against Roderick or somebody like that. So I just hope nobody gets hurt in this thing just for a War Games advantage, you know what I mean? So based on that and the fact that they already did this match with the women, I think I'm much more looking forward to AEW next week. But in terms of this current week, man, when you look at that Lio Rush and Angel Garza match, the Balor promo and the Riddle stuff was fantastic because Balor and Riddle, the idea of that match at War Games gets me real excited. I thought the Keith Lee and Roderick Strong match was awesome, and the main event, of course, was off the hook. So even though AEW gave us the return of Luchasaurus, which was epic, Jericho took a pinfall loss in the main event, and Jericho and MJF had the promo of the century on Dynamite, I'm still giving the slight nod to NXT this week. Now, on Twitter, after I watched both shows Wednesday night, I said that I gave NXT the heavy nod. I'm going to pull back on that. I'm not giving them the heavy nod anymore because AEW was a fantastic show, but I still personally enjoyed NXT better. So props to them, and next week should be a lot of fun too. Let's look at the War Games card real quick. We've got the Undisputed Era taking on the team of Tommaso Ciampa, Dijakovic, and Keith Lee, and one named person upcoming, and like I said, that's got to be Velveteen Dream. We've got Shayna Baszler, Bianca Belair, Io Shirai, and Kaylee Ray taking on Rhea Ripley, Tegan Nox, Candice LeRae, and Mia Yim in the women's War Games match. And another possibility there for the finish, because I was talking about Baszler and what her status could be of the weekend. She's doing double duty. She's involved in 2 big matches, and I think that in NXT, she needs to be dropping that belt to Rhea Ripley at some point. So what I see happening here is I see Baszler's team winning War Games, and maybe doing that with a Dakota Kai heel turn. Feel like she's going to be turning heel, right? Because she was bumped out of the team, and we've been smelling it, and she did make an appearance. She was out there in that ladder match fiasco on Wednesday, so she's currently still a babyface, but War Games might be a perfect opportunity to turn her heel if she does get involved, because she's gone out of her way to say that she's there for the babyfaces if they need her, and she's on their side, which makes me think they could definitely go heel on her there. And I think Baszler's team should win at War Games, because I do not think Baszler will win on Sunday. I think that would be the perfect balance. Baszler can win the big War Games match, continuing her feud with Rhea Ripley on NXT. And then you can have that built-in excuse that she was involved in a really brutal cage match the night before, and that's why Bayley or Becky was able to win at Survivor Series. That's what I would do with the Baszler team. And, of course, we have Matt Riddle taking on Finn Balor, which is also official, and that's only 3 official matches for TakeOver that's coming up 1 week from today. So you'd think we're going to get 1 more, possibly 2. I think the other one we're probably going to get is Damian Priest, Pete Dunne, and Killian Dane. Probably a triple threat match there based on what we saw on Wednesday. Aside from that, what else would you do? Just a random match? Maybe an Isaiah Scott match or something like that. So we're probably looking at a 4 or 5 match card at the most for War Games. And I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully I can make arrangements to be home next Saturday to watch this thing live. If not, I'll catch it when I get home, and we'll talk about it at some point. Let's move on to last night's SmackDown now as well. Perfect timing here because I only got about 20 minutes left and I got to get my ass out of here. But SmackDown was, an okay show. Actually, before we talk about that, let me cruise over here to the chat. Make sure we're good and I didn't leave anybody else out. And special hello to everybody that's saying hello. Appreciate you guys being in here today. Another low audience this week. I don't know what's going on. Last couple of weeks, we've had 300 or 400 people in here. The last 2 weeks, we've only had 150. So YouTube is funny. Hopefully these views will increase over the weekend. All right, cool. I'm all caught up with the chats and stuff. Let's talk about SmackDown a little bit here. This show, I really, really hated the opening segment. You had Baron Corbin out there with Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler. Don't know when all of them became buddies, but they got a little alliance brewing there. Corbin declares himself the team captain for SmackDown, not Roman Reigns, and he calls out Roman Reigns, calls out the big dog, but instead they bring out this mascot dog, somebody dressed in the mascot outfit, which I think if they try to do this shit again, Roman Reigns might actually be under the costume and spear him 1 week. But as soon as I saw that, and I think a lot of people saw that, I was eyeballing Twitter at work trying to see how SmackDown was, and people were like, fuck this show. Brian Alvarez tweeted a middle finger to the mascot and was like, fuck this company. And he's not wrong. It's just so stupid. God, who is writing this stuff? So they've even edited Roman Reigns' theme song to little dog barks, like little yappy barks, which was actually kind of funny. So the whole thing, I guess, leads to Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode challenging Ali and Shorty G, or Mustafa Ali and Shorty G, to a match for their Survivor Series spots. And Ali and G are on the team SmackDown with Strowman and with Roman and Corbin. Corbin wants them out and wants Roode and Ziggler in their place. So they have a match to determine that, but Ali and Shorty G win anyway and defeat Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler when Ali hit the 450 splash on Ziggler for the win. And then Roman Reigns was also out there to help. So I don't even know. That whole segment was just stupid, who cares? The Firefly Funhouse segment also got a little bit of controversy. We had 2 Firefly Funhouse segments on SmackDown last night. The first one was Bray Wyatt basically turning himself into a magician, and he's got the Universal title there, and he's like, something is wrong about it. And he does like abracadabra or something and pulls off the cloth to reveal that the Universal title is now blue. So it looks the exact same as it did before, just blue, which does make sense because SmackDown is blue. But so you don't want to have a red title there. But I think a lot of fans were hoping that given the type of character that Bray Wyatt is, that he should have a custom title. That's basically what I was gathering. And I agree because Bray did briefly have a custom title when he first won the WWE title a couple years ago. That really cool like burgundy or, a brown looking strap, which was just a nice little twist on it. And this one, they could have had some fun with it. They could have done a Firefly Funhouse themed belt where it's all brightly colored and you got the rabbit on the side plates and shit like that. I will give the fans this. They could have had some more fun with this belt. They could have been a little bit creative and a little bit more realistic. But at the same time, they now have to change the belt's color theme anyway. So maybe they felt that was more important than giving Bray a custom belt. Make the belt blue now so people can just get used to the Universal title being blue. That might have been maybe if Bray Wyatt never left Raw and he stayed on Raw, won the Universal title, then I think they might have changed the belt up because it's still red. There's no need to change the colors, and he might have gotten a custom belt. But since he moved to SmackDown, they might have had to do that. basically, I think the fans were taking their anger a little bit overboard. I saw tweets in all caps, furiously angry, mad about the color of a goddamn championship belt. Y'all gotta find different things to be mad about in your lives, because Jesus, man, I'm not even necessarily disagreeing with the statement. They should have done more with the belt, but damn, man, you gotta be crazy about it. Fuck y'all. Anyway, I don't care about the title. I don't care what color it is. I put on Twitter that they could paint that damn thing in Dusty Rhodes polka dots and put Vince McMahon's face in the center of every dot. I wouldn't give a shit. The only thing I care about is that one day the Intercontinental title returns to having a black strap. The Bret Hart, the Mr. Perfect, the Randy Savage, the Ricky Steamboat belt. That's the one I want back. That's the one I miss. Fuck that white strap. So if you ask me, that's the only really belt change I want and I care about. If WWE wants to make a big belt with that ugly-ass WWE logo on it, they can make it any color they want. Knock yourselves out. Don't really care. New Day had a tag team title rematch against the Revival. They, of course, won back the SmackDown tag team titles last week on SmackDown. They've got a rematch this week against the Revival. And did you guys see? I don't know. Shit, I don't remember which one. I can't remember if it was Dash or whoever, but one of them have changed their profile pic to the two of them doing the Young Bucks pose. I guess somebody got a picture of them doing the Young Bucks pose at a house show or something like that. And that is their new profile pic on Twitter, which is hilarious. These guys are out the fucking door, man. They want to leave so bad, and I think it's great. And this match was also great. Probably one of the most entertaining, well, yeah, definitely the most entertaining match on the show in my mind, even though it was broken up at the end. We didn't get a finish. The Undisputed Era hit the ring, attacked, causing the DQ. The Lucha Brothers what are they called? Not Lucha Brothers, Lucha Party. And as much as I hate the Lucha House Party, I do like their throwback In Your House t-shirts. Those are cool, but man, that faction is annoying. I think I call them the Pinata Party. But the Luchas and the Heavy Machinery ran out there to run off Undisputed Era. We had Bayley taking on Nikki Cross in a match. Now, the stip in this was, which didn't make sense, is that if Nikki beat Bayley, she would be added to the Women's Survivor Series team at Survivor Series. Instead of, I don't know, being champion. If you beat the champion, shouldn't that be your prize? I don't know. So they did this match. If Nikki wins, she's on Team SmackDown. The match, I think, was a no contest because Shayna Baszler came out. And Bayley, I guess, tried to run away from Baszler. And this is what I didn't like about the show. So Bayley tries to retreat by hopping over the barricade when Shayna Baszler hit the ring, but she's head off by all of Shayna's opponents at War Games. Rhea Ripley, Tegan Nox, I forgot who the hell else was out there. Maybe not the entire team. I think Dakota Kai and was out there as well. So there might have been a woman missing. No, Mia Yim was out there as well, right after taking that chair shot to the ladder shot to the face. So you had Shayna's opponents at War Games coming out to basically help her out on SmackDown. And that's what I was talking about earlier, is this shit's getting too crisscrossy for me. You couldn't bring any other NXT talent out there, anybody other than Shayna's opponent. It's not like they're in a regular match. It's not like they're in a respectful contest at War Games. They're in a goddamn War Games match in a brutal cage where the only way to win is to beat your opponent into submission. Or shit, maybe you can pin them now. I don't know how it works. Anyway, not a happy match. So you should not be on the same side as your fucking opponent for that. So anyway, I thought that was weird. And I think that's just because there's just too much going on. There's too many teams. You've got 2 pay-per-views, back-to-back nights, each with like team warfare. And all of this like brand supremacy nonsense, it's horse shit. And Corey Graves even said on his podcast, which I've listened to very little of so far. I've not listened to very much after the bell yet, only because there's just too much shit to keep track of. I can't. So I haven't been able to see or listen to too much of his podcast, but I did hear that he said that he doesn't think the fans care very much about brand supremacy. And you know what? He's right. We don't. I don't care about brand supremacy. The one cool thing about Survivor Series and War Games this year is that I think the matches have the potential to be a lot of fun, and I'm really only watching for that reason. I'm not watching very much for storyline development or anything like that, because I think this is just going to be really good, fun wrestling, and I don't really give a shit which brand wins. So Corey's exactly right. Nobody really cares about who wins the brand stuff, and I don't either. I just hope the matches are fun and Survivor Series doesn't suck, which, based on what we see on paper, I don't think it will. What else we got here? Oh, yeah, that's right. So the end of that whole segment, when the women's locker room comes out to help out against the NXT talent, Sasha gets on the mic and proposes a 4-on-4. And that's when Sasha Banks, Dana Brooke, Nikki Cross, and Carmella defeated Dakota, Tegan, Rhea, and Mia in a 4-on-4. So Team SmackDown won that. Little tune-up to Survivor Series, and I think all of those women on SmackDown are on, or maybe not Dana Brooke. I don't even know who's on the women's SmackDown team. Nikki Cross is trying to get in. She'll probably make the team. Carmella's probably on there. Sasha definitely is. And I don't know how that women's team is rounded out yet. But we'll talk about the Survivor Series card here in just 1 second. Miz TV segment was your main event here with Daniel Bryan. They've been teasing an issue between Daniel Bryan and The Fiend. And you pretty much smelled that was going to be your title match. Daniel Bryan's really the only opponent out there for The Fiend. And I think he would be a good first opponent for Bray Wyatt to face and defeat on hopefully what is his run into WrestleMania as the champion. So The Miz and Daniel Bryan still don't get along. The Miz is kind of poking fun at Daniel Bryan for kind of being all over the place emotionally and mentally. You know, he's heel, he's babyface. Now he's kind of in the middle. He doesn't know where he wants to go. Nakamura and Sami Zayn are trying to entice him into their group, and he's having none of it. So he's in there talking with The Miz, and that's when the Funhouse appears on the screen. And Bray Wyatt invites Daniel Bryan to come play. He's trying to get the crowd to chant yes, and Daniel Bryan says no, he doesn't want to play. What he wants is a title shot, so why don't we play at Survivor Series for the Universal title? Bray Wyatt accepts, and The Miz makes it official on the mic, saying at Survivor Series it will be Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, defending the Universal title against Daniel Bryan. So that'll be your match there. I'm not expecting Daniel Bryan to win. I think The Fiend has got to win here and continue rolling. And I think with Daniel Bryan, you got stuff still built in after this match. If he does indeed lose, he can still go into finishing off whatever he's going to do with Sami Zayn and Nakamura, maybe wind up winning the Intercontinental title from Nakamura at some point. And he's still wrestling with where he stands, you know, as far as a babyface or a heel or whatever. So I think Daniel Bryan, his story can continue after Survivor Series. What I think his use for here at the pay-per-view is to be a very good, solid opponent for The Fiend to defeat. Speaking of Survivor Series, here's what we got so far. Brock Lesnar defending the WWE title against Rey Mysterio. I think that match is going to be really good and really fun, and I'm not completely ruling out a Rey victory because we've seen crazier things happen, but considering Brock beat Kofi in 5 seconds, why is he going to beat Rey in any more time or lose to him? So it's going to have to take some interference from Dominic, maybe from Cain Velasquez, although I don't think so, for Rey to pull off the monumental upset here in the very same building that he won the WWE or the World Heavyweight title in at WrestleMania 22. So there is a chance there, but right now I'm still picking Brock. Not picking any title changes really on the show because I just mentioned that I fully expect Daniel Bryan to lose to The Fiend. We've got the three-way tag team match with the Viking Raiders taking on the New Day and Undisputed Era. That should be fun. I was hoping we'd get this one, Intercontinental, U.S., and North American. We've got AJ Styles, Nakamura, and Roderick Strong in a triple threat. That's going to be a lot of fun. And how about Nakamura with a tweet? Great tweet that Nakamura is taking on Roderick Strong and AJ Styles. Strong Styles in a triple threat match. Very cool. We, of course, have the women's match as well. NXT champion Shayna Baszler taking on Raw Women's Champion Becky, taking on SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley. In this match, I'd give this match to Bayley. I mean, Becky's been on a roll. She's held that title since WrestleMania. As of right now, it kind of feels like she's going to hold that belt until WrestleMania. I really feel at this point, since it's already Survivor Series, it's already the end of the year, they're setting up for Becky and Ronda Part 2. So Becky has already been winning. She's been retaining that belt for so long. This would be an excellent victory for Bayley. Oh, by the way, and I didn't even mention this on NXT, my fault. Bayley was the one responsible for beating up all those women. She did appear at the end of that ladder match and knocked out Shayna Baszler, who was celebrating with her team after Io Shirai got the victory. I completely forgot to mention that. I apologize. So at Survivor Series, I actually hope in that match that if Baszler's not going to win, which I don't think she should, I think she should win it at War Games, lose at Survivor Series. I would like to see Bayley win that to, give her some more momentum. And then we also have the men's and women's Team Raw versus Team SmackDown versus Team NXT. Triple threat 5-on-5s. We know for Team Raw, we've got Seth Rollins as the captain. Who is he facing on Monday Night Raw? Shit, I forgot. He's facing on somebody on Monday Night Raw, and if that person wins, they're the new captain, apparently. I forgot who that was. But as of right now, Seth is the team captain. He'll probably remain that way. Ricochet, Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton round out that team. I would love to see a Seth Rollins defection at Survivor Series, assuming he survives Monday, remains captain of Team Raw. I would love to see him switch sides. Maybe go to NXT and be down there with Finn Balor. Maybe even jump to SmackDown. I don't know. Or maybe just turn heel and turn on Raw and then remain heel on Raw and say, yeah, I caused you to lose on purpose because I hate you guys. That might be fun too. But at Survivor Series, if we're going to see a big swerve or big angle or something like that, I definitely want to see Seth Rollins turn heel. I know on Team SmackDown, we've got Roman, Corbin, Strowman, Mustafa Ali, and Shorty G. I have no idea at this point who is on Team NXT, and I don't know really the teams for the women's matches either. So when you look at that, there's going to be a lot of people on this card. What do you think? 50 to 75 pieces of talent are going to be booked for Survivor Series? That's pretty fun. It's the way it used to be back in the day, like I'm going to talk about tomorrow night when we review Survivor Series 1987 and 1988. That's the way it was. It felt like they got every piece of talent on that show, so much so that they had to bring in random dudes sometimes just to round out the card. So there's going to be a lot of talent featured on Saturday and Sunday next week, and I'm looking forward to the weekend. So that is all I have for my notes, and I finished 3 minutes ahead of schedule. Phew. Last couple of weeks, I've only had 90 minutes. I've really cut it close, but we got it done. We did it together. Let me just peek back over here to the chat and see if there's anything else I need to talk about or say. Not really. So yeah, just to remind, oh wait, there's some stuff before I get out of here. Yes, Austin. Oh, I apologize. I almost missed these. Austin Kinkle, thank you very much, brother, for the $5 super chat. AEW and NXT were both great shows. NXT had better in-ring action, while AEW had better promos and segments. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, the opinion. I think the in-ring segments on AEW were much better. Nothing's ever going to top MJF and Jericho, which is why I said, when I say I enjoyed a show more, that's all I mean. Like, I really did enjoy NXT more. That doesn't mean I automatically insist that it was the better show or anything like that. And I just wish fans worded things a little bit more like that, instead of like demanding this is a better show and I'm right and fuck everybody else. Instead of being so goddamn self-centered, just be a little bit logical. I enjoyed NXT. I also enjoyed AEW, but this week I enjoyed NXT more. And that's the only way I word it. That way nobody can fucking flip out on me. Well, you just, or whatever. So F off, everybody. But thank you, brother, for the super chat. Austin, you are the man. I missed another one in here from Stone Cold 10X. I appreciate the $5, dude. I think a factor is also people are more health conscious now opposed to the ECW days, which is why people feel kind of uncomfortable about the match. You're talking about Omega and Moxley. Yes, that's very true. We are health conscious, but at the same time, they are professionals, and doing that stuff from time to time is not as bad as it used to be. We are health conscious now and more conscious of guys having a longer shelf life in wrestling and not shortening their careers, which is why you don't see this much as you do. Stone Cold, even what you're saying there is true. You're also seeing the result of that, kind of new philosophy and stuff in wrestling is that we're not seeing as much of the thumbtacks and the barbed wire and the tables as we used to. Even with Moxley and Omega, we still don't see it a lot. So as long as we see this every now and then, and it does not become a part of their identity in AEW, I'm perfectly fine. I'm just happy that there is a company out there that if we want to see blood and guts, we can get it every now and then. But I don't like violence for the sake of violence, but I like violence if the angle calls for it. The poor superhuman kid on Twitter who's killing himself, jumping through microwaves and barbed wire and shit. That's violence for the sake of violence. Just doing it to do it. Moxley and Omega had a reason. Their feud was calling for that stuff. So me personally, I didn't care. If we start seeing people crawling their shirtless bodies across broken glass every single week on Dynamite, then I'm going to have a problem. But in terms of what we saw at Full Gear, totally cool with it. So anyway, that is going to wrap up episode 13, unlucky 13, of the Winged Eagle podcast. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today, as always, and you're going to get a lot of my face. You are going to be fucking sick of me in the next 48 hours, because tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, I'll be up here for a live stream talking about Survivor Series 1987 and 1988, and then at the very same time, the next night on Raw, on Monday, I'll be here live streaming my reaction to Monday Night Raw. So thanks for hanging out again. Y'all have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Be cool. Peace.